time for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled are Anne Tomlinson, Artistic Director of the Los Angeles Children's Chorus, and actor Ken Davitian of Borat fame. Music director of the Los Angeles Children's Chorus, Anne Tomlinson, was born and raised in Wisconsin. After high school, she went to the University of Wisconsin in Madison and transferred to Oberlin College, Conservatory of Music. Why didn't you start your music education at the University of Wisconsin?
Well, I began there actually after leaving high school and did a little bit of study with one of the student professors there. And he said, Anne, it seems you have so much talent. The lead professor's retiring in a year or two. Why don't you take a look at a couple other schools? He encouraged me to look at Northwestern University, at Cincinnati, and at Oberlin. And I went ahead and auditioned at all three and just fell in love with Oberlin.
And you got into the other two really easily.
They accepted me on the spot. Oberlin said, well, let's see, we don't have very many openings. And I thought, I really would like to go to Oberlin. I think I'll learn the most there.
But how did you? Did you start doing extra work or what?
I did. I did an audition, and then I called them every week and said, you know, I'm still hoping something will work out. And then eventually there was a spot that opened.
Follow your dream.
Absolutely.
What kind of musician are you?
Well, I began my work as a keyboard artist, studying piano, harpsichord, and the pipe organ.
Are those all is harpsichord the same? Oh, harpsichord is the same.
Well, it's
right.
an early a precursor of the piano.
A board, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely a keyboard. And just thinking very limited opportunities for concert organists and pianists, that I would probably end up with the organ work in church world, and thought I better take some conducting because those two often are wedded together, and I just fell in love with conducting through the classes there.
Is that right? So you never got to utilize your keyboard experience?
Well, I did for a number of years serve as an organist, choir master in many different churches.
Did you accompany singers so that you got into it?
I did, and I just love accompanying singers. I think it's really quite remarkable.
Do you kind of lead them while you're playing?
Well, I've had to do both, sort of, using the head, the hand, everything you can.
And as an early age, were you interested in music? Is anyone in your family interested in music?
I loved music from, I think, the first days, but my father was a wonderful singer. My older brothers and sisters were instrumentalists, and back in those days when we all just sang in the car before there were DVD players, that's where I learned to match pitch and to sing in different parts.
Oh, you did. So when you got to Oberlin and you were doing keyboard, you were doing a little bit of conducting, did you ever think you'd be working with children?
No, it was a total surprise to me. I never took a music education class while I was in school, but when I moved to Los Angeles, I met Rebecca Thompson, who was then working with the children, and she asked if I'd
Tell us where she was working.
Well, she was the artistic director and the founding director of the Los Angeles Children's Chorus in Pasadena. I was living in Orange County at the time.
I see.
And I accompanied her for a workshop, and I really admired her and conversed with her, and she said, well, we have an opening for an accompanist. Would you come up and audition? And she asked me to sight read the Mahler's Third Symphony, which the children were preparing to sing with the Philharmonic.
So you started playing?
So I quickly learned that score, at the moment, sight reading that away. And she apparently was pleased and asked if I would accompany the children's chorus. They had so many children wanting to join the program. She said, I think we need to begin another choir. Would you also conduct? And that was the first
I was
entree.
wondering, so she started a second choir and you started conducting. Did she stay on and conduct?
She was there for 3 or 4 more years, and then she and her husband moved to a different city, and they asked if I would serve as interim artistic director, and then eventually was appointed.
Moved into the shoes of the mentor, really.
Well, she is a wonderful mentor, and
yeah,
I try.
That was great. So you weren't planning to work with children, and you got into it through Rebecca. And once you got there, was it daunting? I mean, how old are the children?
Well, we work now with children everywhere from the age of 8 to 18 who have treble voices. And at first I wasn't sure if I would be successful at it, but I just did fall in love with it.
They have to have treble voices?
Well, every child does until they go through puberty. And girls' voices actually change too, not quite as dramatically as boys' voices. But the boys' voices, of course, lower, go through the voice change, and then they turn into either tenors or baritones or basses.
So do they stay? Or they have to leave?
Well, at the moment, we're looking into seeing if we could provide something for the boys once their voice changes
so it's
too.
very focused on, I don't want to say soprano, but treble, right?
But in the treble world, right.
Well, do those voices start changing while you're rehearsing for something like really big and then like the Hollywood Bowl or something? And what do you do?
Well, we do try to keep the boys through the whole season. They're usually quite technically adept at that point, but every once in a while in a rehearsal you'll see a boy's face go sort of, whoa.
That's like
I'm all of a sudden he's having a little bit more trouble. So we work with them individually to help them learn how to.
Well, how many children are in each chorus?
Well, we have 5 different ensembles, depending on they're based as a sequential program. Our premier ensemble has about 75 members, and the training choirs have anywhere from 35 to 65 members.
Well, when they're training then, that's when you're going to start seeing changes, right? And those older kids. Do you have a big turnover?
Not actually very many at all. We lose maybe, well, I shouldn't say lose, but several graduate away when they become high school seniors.
And where would they go from there?
Well, to a variety of educational experiences. Some do want to pursue a professional music career. Some just love music and find other ways to use their singing or to support the arts.
And when you had to learn to work with these children, what techniques did you have to learn? Because that must have been totally foreign.
Well, they teach you what they need, and I learned from them. They will let you know in a second if they're not intrigued with the way you're presenting the material.
But how do you present the material?
Well,
say a typical day you're going to start something new.
We look at a piece, and I've studied it pretty intensely beforehand. I usually, depending on the piece, will introduce them either to the rhythmic components of the piece or maybe the melodic or harmonic.
So you'll
we break
play
it into
that?
sections.
Will you play that or will
Actually,
you sing it?
not. We have classes where they learn how to sight read music. We want them to be musically literate and be able to pick up a piece of music and read it like they read a book. So we teach them how to read the intervals and learn, and that's how we teach.
And then who decides what the chorus is going to sing?
We have 3 different conductors on staff, and we sit together and we select them carefully. We really spend a lot of work making sure each piece is a good teaching vehicle for the technique, this special bel canto technique that we use. And
that's without music? Bel canto?
Bel canto is a type of singing that is what we feel is healthy for children. It's a lighter production than what you hear in popular music, and it's a way of singing that uses the breath and the voice together to create a very light, beautiful, what we call head tone, a very high quality.
But it still has accompaniment.
Oftentimes we use accompaniment, or sometimes they sing a cappella as well.
Oh, they do. Yeah. Well, your chorus sings with the LA Opera, and when do they have opportunities to do that?
Well, we're doing some right now, as a matter of fact. They had their very first staging rehearsal for Carmen yesterday. And they're the little street urchins in Act 1, and so they were given swords yesterday and said, fight away, which of course they loved. They thought that was great.
How many would do that?
We have about 20 children in
Carmen.
Carmen.
Do?
Yes.
And then they've sung at the Hollywood Bowl, and what kind of productions?
Well, just this past September, we sang in Maestro Salonin's final performance at the Hollywood Bowl, the Mahler's 8th Symphony, which is a phenomenally beautiful work.
And do they sing with the adult chorus as well?
Certainly. We sing with the LA Master Chorale, and they were a part of that Mahler 8 production as well.
That's what I wondered.
But a couple years ago, when Grant Gershon, brilliant conductor, selected the Christopher Rouse Requiem, we were also a part of that premiere.
It's so fascinating to think that the children can work with the adults, and I've heard it said that your chorus, the voices are like angels.
Well, we try. We try.
Do you have to audition, and how difficult is that?
We do hold auditions because there's such a great demand, and at the moment we don't have quite enough space for everyone. We try to keep the auditions as fun as possible and as least nerve-wracking as possible. We just listen for a child who can truly match pitch right in the center, a child who has a healthy vocal production, whose voice is in good shape, and really a child who's interested in learning and flexible.
And then what do? They come after school?
They do. We have programs and rehearsals Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays during the week, and our premier ensemble, concert choir, meets twice a week, but the other ensembles meet just once a week.
And where do they meet?
Currently, we are fortunate to be rehearsing at Pasadena Presbyterian Church. The church has always been a good friend to LACC and provided space.
Well, do most of the children then come from that area, from the Pasadena, San Marino area?
When the chorus began 22 years ago, almost all the children were from Pasadena, but now we come from 65 different communities throughout the LA
and
area.
They come on their own to get there?
Thank goodness for parents who are willing to drive.
I know.
Some from Orange County, some from Riverside. It's quite remarkable.
How long are your rehearsals?
Usually around an hour and a half each, and then a half an hour class to learn how to sight sing.
And do you find most of them are musical? That's why they're there? Do they play another instrument or do something musical?
Many do, but I think the greatest commonality is just a love of singing.
Is that right? Well, this has been so great because we see the children's chorus all the time, and I don't think we're so aware of what it took and how they had to audition to get there. And do you use a baton?
I use a baton when I work with a piece that calls for instrumentalists, a large number of instrumentalists in children's voices. But most often with the children, I just use my hand. It seems to reflect and be a little bit easier for them than singing with a stick, as they say.
That's what I wondered, because is that another technique that you would use, or is that a technique all choral masters use?
I certainly use it because we work hard to create the voice and shape our lips in a certain way, so I try to model that in my hand gesture.
Well, thank you, Anne, so much for being here today.
It's been wonderful, Jen.
And we thank you for watching this part. Don't go away, because we have actor Ken Davitian coming back on stage, and he's going to bring some hot dip, French dip sandwiches. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. My guest, native Californian Ken Davitian, is that kind of actor you know, but you can't remember his name. You might remember the tough guy with the cigar and the Panama, or the burly guy who speaks with an accent. He's been in lots of films like Get Smart, SWAT, Holes, dozens of TV shows, and over the last 15 years appeared on the stage. But it was the role of Borat that let the world audience learn everything about him, and I mean everything. Ken always has has to fall back on his French dip shop if his acting doesn't come about. So we're going to talk about the French dip, how that came about, and it's in Hollywood, and he brought us some of the things. Can we see you carving in Hollywood?
No, not anymore.
Oh, you used to?
I used to. I created all this stuff. We have a lamb sandwich with the old Armenian recipe of how you marinate lamb with onions and wine, and that's how we make our lamb sandwiches. But
and then the French dip, what's a French dip?
a French dip was actually somebody came up with this in downtown LA, where the meat, that's pastrami,
okay,
where the meat fell into the juice of the meat, and some policeman was getting a sandwich and he had to go, it was in a hurry, so he just give it like that to me, with the wet bread and everything.
So he took it and that was a French dip?
That was a French dip, and now it's everywhere, but what we've done is we've added lamb, pork, turkey, pastrami.
Hot dogs?
No, hot dogs we have another place on Ventura Boulevard in Beverly Glen called the Infield.
Oh, there's
And that's where
another
we do the
place.
hot dogs.
Oh, wow. So the French dip is just the French dip.
French dip is the French dip, and that's at Hollywood and Highland
And-
on the third level of the Kodak Center.
And people, and I think I've talked to people who have been there and they've said, oh, I've seen actors there. I don't know what they're doing
just
there.
one. Yeah. No, but a lot
No,
have
other
come.
actors,
Yes, yeah.
friends of yours, I guess.
Yeah, meetings, everything is there because it's free.
Oh, that's it.
It's the best place for me to go because I don't have to pay. I said, well, I'll take care of it. It doesn't cost me anything.
You have your meetings there.
Yeah, exactly. Works out really well.
You have 2 sons. Do they work there?
Yes, one of them works with me doing the movie stuff, and he's a writer, and he graduated from Northridge, and the other one is working with me at the infield. The infield was totally his idea. All I said was, if you're going to use the name of the dip, you have to really wow me with the menu. And now that menu is awesome. We have a fried Twinkie dog. We have a s'mores dog.
You hear about those awful things, but they're
sti-
true?
Yes, and they taste so good. At 3 o'clock in the morning, they're fabulous.
Oh, God, that's great. So your one son is working with you in the acting business.
Yeah.
So does everyone who looks at you, do they just remember Borat? Is that the thing that comes
You know,
about?
it does a lot. It does a lot. But if I'm naked, then right away they remember.
Oh, they remember you.
Right away, they know who I am.
No, tell us how that Borat thing came about. I thought that was a great story, the audition.
I was doing extra work on the same lot, and I knew that this was happening, and I was working there for a couple of weeks. So I tried so hard to get an audition, but they didn't want to audition me because they said, you're an American guy. So I went in totally in character. I wore my own clothes that I had from the 80s. I walked in there like, and you would know when I mean a DP Armenian.
Yes.
All the Armenians that I know with all the accents, and I walked in there and I just kept going, and they kept laughing, and they said we thought we were laughing at you, not with you, because we thought, what are you doing here? Because they asked me, they said, do you know how to do improvisation? And I says, oh, improvisation, I do it in classes. And I heard somebody say, he's taking classes? What? How did he get up here? So, and then when I finished everything, and I did some improvisation with Sasha, and after it was all over, I said, all right, guys, if you like the audition, give me a call.
Just like that?
Yeah, and that's when they said, wait a minute, because a lot of people tried to fool them. But this is Larry Charles and Sacha Baron Cohen. They're not easily fooled. I won. I fooled them.
So that was great. They didn't know that you would speak without an accent.
No, I took out an 8x10. It was folded in my suit jacket, and I straightened it, and I gave it to them with no resume, and they're just looking at me like,
What a nutcase,
yeah,
right?
what are you doing here?
That's
But
so
that's
great.
what they were looking for. They didn't think, because I heard one guy say while I was auditioning, okay, he's perfect, but he's not an actor. How are we going to corral him?
Oh, they didn't think you were an actor even
No.
at that time when
No,
you came
they
in.
thought, you know,
you were just
somehow-
somebody off the...
It's off the street, but taking classes. Maybe I was an actor in Armenia. Because they asked me, they said, when was the first time you came to America? And I said, 1953, first time I come to America. Which is true. I was born in America, and that's the first time I came. Never lied, so that I can always remember what I said.
Right.
But I just kept adding on to it.
Did they ask you to use another language and then you used
Yes,
Armenian?
I spoke. I actually have a tape of the audition.
Oh, that's great.
And on the audition, I speak Armenian, and Sasha even cracks up and walks off the tape because I made him laugh.
You
And
can't
that-
believe that you're really speaking, that you're speaking
Yeah.
a language.
Well, they didn't know what I was speaking.
Yeah,
They
that's
just
what
said,
I mean.
You know, and he speaks with an English accent. So I said to them, I said, I don't understand what he's saying. And he says, but he's speaking English. I says, no, he's speaking British.
Oh, that's... So they just fell for you.
They fell for it, and it worked, and thank you, God.
And here you were, 15 years working, working for a long time, and then it takes this obscure,
Yes.
independent film, and you two just made it all
Oh.
over.
We went all over. We did everything. And
Was it like a actor's dream come true for you?
not till after it was done.
Oh.
Because there was no script. So I didn't know how much I'd be in. I didn't know if they'd cut me out. Every time he would get into a situation, he would scream out my name, Azamat, Azamat, and I would come running. And that's what they used when they edited, and it worked because we had 680 150 hours of tape.
Oh my gosh.
But you only saw an hour and a half movie.
Oh my gosh. So you were with them a long time.
4 months.
That was long. And acting all the time.
In character,
In
from
character.
6 in the morning till they dropped you off at the hotel at 12, 1 o'clock in the morning.
So here you are, a boy, a native Californian from East LA.
A boy, I like that.
A
Thank you
boy.
very much.
I look
Thank
at you
you.
as a boy. From East LA. You
East
went
LA.
to Garfield High.
That's right.
That wasn't the place for an actor, was it?
It was difficult because they had a theater department, but it wasn't a big deal over there. Football was a big deal.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, I went out 15 minutes for football. People were trying to hurt me. And I thought, okay, I'm going back to the theater.
But nobody said, oh, there's the sissy, there's the
No,
this.
no,
They
I
didn't do
became
that.
very popular, and all my friends we were in a popular group because we were always the ones that made people laugh and got everybody happy.
Yeah, well, you did a lot of TV. You've been on Boston Legal and 6 Feet Under and The Closer. What kind of roles do they choose for you now?
Well, now they're always looking at me as funny, and I'm always trying to get anything because I just want to work. I don't care.
So
At
is
this
it
age,
serious?
who cares if they typecast you?
You're not going to be a leading man.
No.
And I mean, it's better to be typecast. So Azamat spent a lot of time on Saturday Night Live, didn't he?
Oh, that
How
was the
many
most
things?
most exciting thing I did. It was such a turn on because I've watched Saturday Night Live from its beginning when
yes.
Belushi was on, and when I met Lorne Michaels, I even did the Belushi sketch
Oh,
that
'cause you
he
remembered
first
it.
one that he did. But I stayed in character during the whole thing. So these guys would come out. We started there
You mean when you were doing Saturday Night Live, you stayed in that Azamat character too?
They never knew who I was until 2 o'clock in the morning when we went to a party, and they looked at me like, "Hey, who do you think you are trying to fool us?" And I said, "Oh, it was Sasha's idea. I have to stay in character all the time." I blamed it on him.
Oh.
But and it was. He can come and go because people knew who he was. They didn't know me, so they assumed the same thing. With the junket, with the foreign press,
junket, what'd you do?
all the time. That's all I was in. I would go eat with them, and we would talk about Egypt. We'd talk about the rest of the world, and it was all in accent. Then when they met me, they said, "Hey, you lied to us." I said, "Yeah, that's it. I'm always in character."
Oh, they kept you in character though,
All
but
the
that
time.
was part of what it was. You did a movie called Float.
Yes, I did.
And what is that?
That you know what happened? You will understand this as an Agajanian.
Yes.
I got a call from a guy that was in Float. One of the producers, his name is Harach. Harach called his mother. His mother called his sister. His sister told her husband Vasken, and he called me because we grew up together. We were in the AYF and all of this in Montebello, and he called me, and I said, "Sure, I'll do a favor. Not a big deal."
Oh, so it's a small role.
It was a small. Ended up being 3 scenes, and now Harach, I, and Johnny, who wrote and directed the film, are now meeting with my son Aaron, and we're writing another film.
But that film also is being shown at the AFMA Film
Yes.
Festival, and
Yes.
it's up for a lot of awards.
It
so
is.
That's cool.
It's so cute. It's such a nice movie about 3 different generations of people that their life's a little mixed up, and they find themselves.
Could you actually act in a play or a movie speaking only Armenian?
Well,
is your Armenian that
I did
good?
all of Borat was in Armenian.
Yes, but we didn't understand anything because they kept muffling.
Right. Okay. And I did an ER that was written for me, all in Armenian.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So I've done television and motion picture, and I don't have a problem. The only thing is, the Armenian priest, he wouldn't understand me, and I certainly don't understand him because I talk village Armenian.
Right. I
You
know,
know?
just well, we were brought up with that Russian Armenian accent and that
that's
language.
the same thing.
Yeah, same thing. So, and you did what? The Spartans?
Meet the Spartans.
Meet the Spartans.
Yes, I played Xerxes, which was so much fun because it was the first movie after Borat.
Oh, that's
and
what it was,
I was so excited to be like in a movie with trailers and makeup and everything because Borat was 10 people.
Because you were on the road all the time.
Yeah,
But Soulman too is a new film for you.
Oh God, that was a new film. Soulman worked out so well for me. It was a small part. I did it, and I met Bernie Mac, And Bernie Mac and I, in June, shot a sitcom.
See, so each thing leads into something else, doesn't it?
Yes. And then the poor man passed away. It was such a great guy. But
yeah,
Starting Under was a sitcom I did with Bernie Mac, and it came from after meeting him on the movie.
Just like Float, I want to just go back to that. You're writing something, and what kind of theme?
We're writing
subject?
a comedy where I am a crazy old Armenian man, which I play quite well, and I have to turn into a normal American person. So they're going to take me to classes. I'm going to lose the accent. I'm going to little by little learn how to dress.
I love it.
And so it'll be an arch for me to be able to show, everything.
Yes, and then you have to keep in shape. How do you keep in shape in this
I
acting?
eat at the dip.
You eat at the dip?
I eat at the dip.
Do you work out?
No.
Do you take any classes, acting classes?
I did up until Borat. I had the time.
Oh, you
and
did?
I always took classes. One of my sons kept saying, "Oh, Hollywood will find me." I says, "No, Hollywood's not going to find you." We mentioned earlier Ruben Mamoulian.
Yes, I was going to ask you about
My grandmother was in his mother and father's acting troupe.
He was one of the great
Yes.
Armenian directors who started in Hollywood with early in the 20s, was it?
Yeah. And he's the one. They're actually showing Blood and Sand on the film festival.
But he made he made a great contribution to film. And your grandmother, so you had the acting blood in you.
I looked at it and I saw it. My grandfather was picking up garbage, and my grandmother was on stage reading from somebody else's written word. And I thought, well, that looks easier. I'm going to do that. And it's taken 50 years, though, to get it.
To make it so easy. Well, we're glad you came and told us your story.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
And I'm glad to
Ken.
meet you. I had no idea. You know how many of your family members I know?
I know. People have been keeping us apart from each other.
I didn't know that.
Yes,
You mentioned Mel. It's very interesting.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Keep writing to me. Email me at jaquinn1@aol.com and 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, Los Angeles 90017. And we'll see you next time on the Joan Quinn Profiles.